Tag Berlin. Aber mein Deutsch war gar nicht so gut. That's why I do it in English. Right? Okay, welcome. We're going to talk about security. It sounds boring, but I want to start with a phrase. Who have heard of the phrase DevSecOps? Who likes the phrase DevSecOps? One. Perfect. Okay, let me get back to the root. Who of you practices DevOps? 7, 8. Well, let me rephrase that again. Who does development is the one or is available or needs to put that stuff that you build into production, and if things go wrong, as the English say, when the shit hits the fan, you get called, you need to fix it. Who does that? Most of you. Then you do DevOps. DevOps basically is tearing down the walls between development and operations, and as a team, you are responsible for the whole shebang. That is what DevOps means. Not, now we've got operations guys with new tooling, and we call them DevOps engineers. Or we cut down the operations guys, and you have to do it. Well, basically, that's what you do. But DevOps is meaning we do not just throw it over the wall, and he or she is responsible for it. You are responsible as a team as well. I don't like the word DevSecOps because this means that the sec thing is something new in the middle because it's so important, let's put it in between. The point is, I think that security needs to be on our mind, but it needs to be part of dev, needs to be part of ops. So putting it in between as a new word, I actually don't like that because it needs to be implicitly in your mind as a developer, as an operations guy, as anybody. But that's not the case. So that's why they have this word, DevSecOps. We're going to talk about that sec part. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Brian. I'm living in Breda, which is in the southern part of the Netherlands. That's why I speak a little bit of German, but I'm not too confident to do it in German. I work as an engineer and a developer advocate for a company called Snyk. We are a security company, and we build tooling for developers to make it easier. And we do some security research, but for your end, who of you is a developer? Or, well, say, kind of a developer? It's me. I'm not really a developer. I'm just trying. I'm just writing demos. That's what I do. So I work for Snyk. I do some community work for the Utrecht Java user group, the secure developer, and the Virtual Java user group. Fine. Not important. Because we're going to talk about a DevSecOps thing, and there's a problem. But what is that problem? What are we trying to solve? The point is, 5 years ago, well, maybe 7, maybe 10 years ago, when I worked for a government agency, we deployed to production 3 times a year. Nowadays, when you work, for instance, at an e-commerce company, you might deliver 3 times a day if needed, right? So we try to speed things up because we want to be bigger, better, and stronger than our competitors. And if we have new stuff, we need to get it out as soon as possible to be ahead of that competitor, right or not? The point is that, well, we have this operations manager or this program manager that breathes down my neck. We want this stuff out today. Well, actually yesterday, but that's impossible, so today. So we build it, tests, it runs, ship it. Security is not our first-class citizen, is not on top of mind. So the lack of focus might be a problem in the end, right? Because we're developers. We're not security people. We have the security department. And that's the second problem. I mean, the security department is still a siloed part at the end of the line. You build something, good, we've done it, and then there's the security guys or girls or people that look at it and they basically say no. No, it's not good enough. Go back to the drawing board. And that irritates me. Because as a developer, I want to ship things. My manager wants me to ship things. That are our KPIs, if you may call it like that. And then we got in some sort of debate, right? Yes, it's good enough. Yo, no, it's not good enough, whatever. The point is, if we can switch that more to our side, that we have security as a first-class citizen in our mind, and we implement that during development, it might be a little easier to get through that gatekeeper. And actually what we want is in the end that our customer data is safe, right? If our customer data is out in the open, if it's PII data, personal identifiable data, then you might be a headline in a newspaper, but not in a good way. So, fun, but how bad is that? I mean, who of you heard of a company, an American company called Equifax? Who of you have heard of Equifax 3 years ago? 2. That's good marketing. Equifax was breached. The problem with Equifax was, I don't want to get into the company, but it was a crediting company, and in the end, 143 million records were exposed. That's not a good thing to get your name in the news like that, right? The point was, they were using a Java library, Apache Struts 2. They were using that, everything was fine, and then somebody found a vulnerability. But they were using it. Somebody snooped in, but they were still using it and were not aware. So you could dig around, look around, snoop around, and found out how to get to vulnerable data, client data, and put that one out. By simply not knowing what you have inside your application, that's what happened to Equifax, they were breached. And I will show you how they got breached. Because, well, I promise you some life hacking, right? So I will go, yes, you'll see I will go into a application. This is running on Heroku. So it's a cloud application. You see, it's on the internet, the big bad internet. Let me make sure that it's actually running, and it's running. Cool. Let me go. Well, what's the first thing you do when you hack something? When you want to try to hack something? You put a hoodie on. You put the hood on. No, really not. You go to the terminal, because no hacker in his right mind would do it from the browser, right? Let's keep it cool. The point with Apache Struts was that you can do routing. But what we can do is we can call a curl command with this content type. As you can see, this is a content type. And the programmers between us, you know that they probably recognize this content type, right? Who recognizes this content type? Really? It's an illegal content type. Normally, it's JSON or plain text or HTML or whatever. But what we do here is we utilize OGNL, the Object Graph Navigational Language that is, well, applicable in Apache Struts 2. The point here is, when you do this, you get into an exceptional flow, and in this wrong version, in this vulnerable version, you can use the OGNL in an exceptional flow to do stuff. And that is actually was there to make sure that you have error messages that were friendly, in that sort of speaking. The point is, if you can utilize OGNL, you can access getters and setters from running objects in your runtime, but also create new objects. And that's what we do here. Because there's a whole stuff out here, and what we do is, for Java people under us, you'll see that we call the process builder. And the process builder, we simply ask them to fire up my bash command, my terminal, and I will insert a command. By wiring this to an input and output stream, I will get the stuff back. But basically that means if I substitute this part, command, into any command in Linux, it can be executed. Let me show you. So let me do this one. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use that header, what I just showed you, and I will substitute the word command with env, which basically shows me the environment variables. But let's not do this on my local machine. No, let's do this on this Heroku instance. So I copy paste this, go back to my terminal, and instead of localhost, let me go to that Heroku instance. So by executing this, having this exploit header, and executing this, you will see I have the environment variables within this Heroku instance, which is still not much, right? I just read something. But env is a command. I can execute any command possible with this header. And that's because I am using a version of Apache Struts that is vulnerable. It was out there, it was disclosed, it was documented, but I wasn't simply aware of it. Fun part. You see the Java options, and you see where the Java home is located on my Heroku instance, /app/.jdk. Keep that one in mind because we need that later. That is pretty terrifying because I use this package from the internet with my package manager, Maven or Gradle because it's Java. And now I cannot use it anymore, or I don't know if it's good or not. And I mean, if we look at our application, and our application is this part, how much of this is your code? Probably this, because we depend heavily on frameworks and libraries, third-party libraries. Who of you does code reviews? The rest of you do pair programming, right? Cool, cool. We do not talk about that. But basically that says you do not trust your peers, because everybody can make a mistake, right? So let's check each other's code, but we do blindly trust frameworks and libraries like that? Think about it. I mean, small example. This is a 19-line code serverless node example. It has 2 dependencies. Dependencies have dependencies having dependencies, right? Which ends up in 19 dependencies in total. Now the big question for you. How many lines of code do I put into production? Any ideas? Just yell. 1,000. 100,000. Who gets more? 100,000. It's almost 200,000 lines of code. Just to make you aware, not every part of code is used, but do you know? Did you analyze it? Well, let's make it worse. Java, a Spring serverless example, and Spring downloads the whole internet, right? Or Maven does. Or is it NPM? I don't know, both. This is a 222-line code serverless example we used for a demo. There was heavy copy-pasting, so the code wasn't clean at all, but just to make a point, it had 5 dependencies, which end up in 54 dependencies in total. How many lines of code? Almost 500,000. And you basically don't know which code is used because it's Spring. Spring heavily depends on the reflection API in Java. So it can be utilized even though your call graph doesn't say it because of that nifty reflection API. So basically, you don't know what's happening. You just use it. And you test it as a black box, fine, it works. And as we know, we all use open source. And that's cool, that's fine. But remember, when there is a problem in an open source package, there are many, many potential victims. For instance, who is an NPM programmer or a Node programmer? I can just call a name, Lodash. Everybody uses Lodash, right? 2 months ago we had a problem there? 3 months ago? Yeah, I know. But that's the point. If there's a problem, there are many, many victims. And that helps for many ecosystems. Because if we see what the indexing for the different package managers was, you see that NPM is the clear winner. And that says something, honestly, that says something about the quality of the packages. I mean, I'm a Java programmer, so I want to make fun of Node, but it says something about the quality of the packages. There are many packages doing the same stuff. But still, if we look at the blue line, it's Maven Central. It's the main repository for Java packages. And it still is a growth of 100,000 packages in 1 year, which is a lot. And if we look at the vulnerabilities that will be disclosed, or were disclosed each year, you see that Java is the clear winner, something I'm not proud of course. Don't even look at PHP, that's not a language. So if we look at the 2 biggest ecosystems, that is Node on the one hand, and Java on the other hand, so NPM and Maven in this case. You'll see that the problem is not your top-level dependencies. Most of the time, it is using something else underneath the hood that is the problem. So we do not only have to look for that top-level dependencies, and by hand you can look in the CV database, is that vulnerable? You probably don't know. We have to scan your whole dependency tree, right? You have to know what's underneath it. And if you ask OS maintainers, are you confident in your own security knowledge? 63% says kinda. How much do you trust kinda? I mean, it are people, just like you and me. We program, we even contribute to open source. but we do not trust our peers. Who is responsible for security? Well, at least 81% of our respondents said developers have their fair share. Most of the time it's together with security team or operations, but developers need to take responsibility. Fair. Well, then we can go further, like how do you find out of vulnerabilities? 27% said I probably won't, I don't care, whatever. But if a vulnerability is disclosed, or, well, if a package is out there, you probably have a legacy system out. Who works with legacy systems? We need to maintain that, but actually we do not want to touch it anymore, but we need to maintain it. Don't touch it until it's broken, because who knows that feeling? Who has worked with that in the past? Many of you. How much time, in general, does it take to find and disclose this, a vulnerability in a package? It can take up to 2.5 years. That's the median. So that means that what's out now is maybe free of vulnerabilities. But if it stays out, people are snooping, people are looking, people are digging. And they will find something probably. So if you're running with an application that is a few months old, you didn't touch it, or even years old, and it's outward facing, you might be in trouble. Who uses Docker? Who builds their own stuff on top of a Docker image that he or she get from Docker Hub? These are the top 10 free Docker images we pulled from Docker Hub in March this year. And we scanned them for vulnerabilities. If you take the Node one, you get 567 vulnerabilities for free, just like McDonald's. Point is that basically we do this, we just grab a package, we put our stuff on top of it, and we do not look carefully in which version you use, because this is simply node tags, just the latest. At that point, the node image was built up on an older Debian Jessie version, which had a lot of OS layer vulnerabilities. So it's not the problem of Node. It was actually the OS it was built upon. But we blindly trusted stuff, so boop, you got that on. And if we ask these people, when do you scan Docker images for OS vulnerabilities? Well, half of them do, the other half don't. And that's scary. Because it's like, oh yeah, I actually don't do that. Well, we can go on and on and on and on, but I will show you some demos of things that can go horribly wrong if you use the wrong images, because that is fun. First of all, I'm going to show you an application. This is an application we built. These are vulnerable on purpose. Trust me, this is not outward facing, it's local host. If I put this outward, my boss would kill me. But this is a to-do app because, well, I need to do stuff like buy flowers. Cool, we can make a to-do list. It's nothing special. You see, I'm a great designer here, and I'm the most awesome designer if you talk about pages, right? Isn't this the best about page ever? For a fact, I know this Node application uses the ST library, and the ST library is there to serve you static content. So I'm going to hack that one, because I know that there is a path traversal problem there. What do? I just told you, you put on a hoodie, you put the hood on, and you go to the terminal. So we go to the terminal. And, well, what do I do here? I will curl, for instance, what is it, localhost 3001/public/about.html. Let's check that one. It works. It will give me back my HTML file. Is this visible for everybody because it's behind me? Who cannot see it? Just raise your hand and I will enlarge it. Everybody can see it. Awesome. So say I want to do path traversal. How should I begin? Am I the one that? Where's my microphone? Oh, where's my microphone? I will just keep talking, and I see technicians behind me that will help me out. That feels weird, talking and people touching me. Except for my wife, of course. But then I don't talk. Yes? We there? Ooh, Woo. Almost. Okay. Normally, oh, this is hard.
I give you another one.
You give me another one. Well, you can hear me, right? Perfect. So we keep on going because I have time boundaries. So normally you should do path traversals like breaking out of that sandbox. Normally you would do something like dot dot slash, dot dot slash, dot dot slash, right? Well, let's try that. What we get over here is that you will get into the main page. You will get redirected back to the home page. Because the ST library is actually a real library. And it blacklists the dot dot slash. And there's exactly the problem. It blacklists. So we have to be very still, because if I move here, but we have to be a little bit smarter. Who has an ID? Well, escaping doesn't work either. You will get back in here. And I can read the past WD file. Right? Cool. Now I can, but this is the beginning of my journey. I can snoop around. I can look what's there. I can see if there are property files, password files. For instance, what I can do is I can reverse all of this and just not go into the, just get out of the public directory and look what's there. Oh, that's cool. What I can do is I can do the package. It's weird, but maybe it works. Yeah. I can read the package.json, and now I know every single package in NPM you use in your library, which is convenient because now I can continue my research. For instance, I see there is the MS package over here, and I know by heart that the 07.1 is very, very vulnerable. Yes, I've done this before. Let's not spoil it. So, by doing this, I have my first part of information. Now I'm going to ask you, who likes regular expressions? Keep your hand up, keep your hand up. Who likes reading other people's regular expressions? One, you're a hero. Because normally a regular expression is like, I get my cat, put it on my keyboard, and something like this. Yeah, regular expression done. If not, try again. No, but for instance, what is a regular expression? A regular expression is something weird, like, for instance, and say we match that to this string, it will probably work. But you don't know how. If it uses the star, if it uses the plus, if it uses the star till halfway, and then the plus, you have no clue. It basically works. But if it doesn't work, a regular expression goes into backtracking mode. And basically, we're going to try every possible string that fits that pattern and match it against another string. What if these things are very, 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 very long? It will take a lot of time. And that's the fun of it, because on how many threads does a node application work? There can be only one. So let's exploit that one. We call this a regular expression denial of service, also abbreviated to REDOS. So I will just show you a few things first. Say we're gonna do this. I will just echo something into that form, and I will use HTTP to do so. So I go to the local host, and I will say, call mom in 20 minutes. By doing that, I will get a return value. If I look back here, it says, call mom in 20 M. So we know it does something with the 20 and the minutes. Cool. Next up. Let's do this one. Now I will print 60,000 fives and match it to minutes. It will take slightly longer, but it comes back because simply it matches. If you look here, you will see that it says buy milk in infinity days. By then it's sour. Fair enough. But I need to buy it anyway. What can we do to make it into that backtracking mode? What can we do to make it longer? Simply make sure it doesn't match. So, if I'm using the same algorithm, and I always say against to my English colleagues, I'm Dutch, I misspell everything, get used to it. Minutes, because that sounds kind of lead, right? And you see it hangs. And if I go to my browser and I will type something and I will push the enter button, you see it hangs because that thread is still busy processing all the possibilities and tries to match it. When it's done, it will give back the resources and all the other stuff can go. If you only run on one thread, you have a problem. If you run at 2 instances, I just do this twice. It's almost Black Friday, right? So for instance, I'm the competitor of Amazon. And if I know that Amazon is only working on 2 threads, I will just make sure they're not available during that day, because if I add another 0, we'll be here all day, right? And all the public comes to me. But who's running on the cloud nowadays? Like, cloud is so special, so 2017. Who is running their stuff on the cloud? A few. If you're running on a cloud instance, you probably have elastic scaling, which is good. But that means I just drop these strings over and over again, and another one pops up, and another one pops up, and another one pops up. And that's a denial of pocket money, because I will simply drain your fundings, right? So this can be a problem, and simply by inputting the wrong version. Okay, it was fun to make fun of Node. Let's make fun of Java. And this one was a Java application I showed you earlier, and we need to remember something. Who knows what we needed to remember? The JDK path, thank you. So I will sign up and go in here, and I will put myself up here, and I will pick a password, which would be 126, because I work at a security company, and this is very, very safe. No, don't. Then my colleagues will see it. So again, this is a to-do app, and what I can do is I can create a to-do over here, and I put something special. Say I would say this, eat pie somewhere in 1970, and make it high, because by then I will probably be hungry. And what you see over here is that pi character is transformed into an ASCII representation. And for a fact, I know that every title goes into the native to ASCII function, which is part of the JDK. We've got another thing over here. We can upload files. Something completely unrelated, it seems. But we can upload zip files. We can unpack zip files. Let's do something with that. Because if, for instance, my zip file looks like this. It contains 2 files. A good.txt with something in it, I have no clue, and a file which the path is .. So we're going basically to the root to /app/.jdk, which was coincidentally exactly the same path as the JDK on my Heroku instance. I will go to the bin, I will go to the native to ASCII, and that native to ASCII file contains only echo muhaha gotcha. I can unzip it, but it's not fun. But for the sake of time, I will just show you. And we're using a library over here that unzips for me, because in Java we do not have an unzip library natively. We do have the building blocks to do so. And the problem is, if we do not check the path, but simply take the path, connect the file name to it, and execute, that can be fun. So let's go into, where is my stuff? Demo zipslip.zip. And I open this one, and I upload that one. And then you'll see that the good.txt is in the public folder I expect it to be. The other file is not. It can mean two things. Or it is ignored, or it is actually executed. Let's see. Created to, and I can do everything over here, right? Let's put a date to it. Let's give it a high vulnerability. And then I just overrode something in your JDK. Because this package I used had the vulnerability that it didn't check for the path. It just used the path. They needed to check for the canonical path to see if it starts with something weird, and then compare it to the path you wanted to get to. And if that's different, then you might have a problem. But again, I'm using a library. And this one was from a very well-known company. The point was, they didn't know, and I was using it. They fixed it, and I was using the old version. So what we need to do is we need to fix stuff, and we need to get known for this stuff, right? So let's get to the solution for this, because the solution is not simple. The solution is actually very hard, because it's stated of three things: culture, process, and tooling. And the culture part, I think that's the hardest one. They're equally important, but the culture one is the hardest one. Because we work with different people: developers, security, operations, management, you can call a dozen more. And we all have different views. We want to create stuff, security just wants to make stuff that's not breachable. And that doesn't fit together. Operations just wants to make sure that if they get called at 3 o'clock in the morning, they just have to push on and off and it works. Got it, thank you. Management, what they think of is, everybody knows, but you don't dare to say it because it's on camera. They see me, not you. Money, exactly. But that's cool, because that basically means your company is alive. You need to produce money if you're in a commercial company. But let's get that stuff with security and developers together. If we can think more in a secure, we can code more in a secure way, and we can help them in the beginning, at the end the security guys will probably not say no, or the chance will be slimmer. Then there is process, because, well, how do we fix things? We just add process normally. That doesn't work. If I ask who wants change, everybody raise their hands. Who wants to change? Nobody. Because basically what we want to do is build stuff. Right? As a developer, I just want to create stuff. But if I can make it easy to make you think of security, to incorporate that in your whole life cycle, then it would be okay. If I ask you to do every time you want to deploy, you need to do a pen test, and I deploy 3 times a day, well, that means my day has actually 24 hours, and I work all of them then. And I don't want that. And then you've got the tooling. You need to get the tooling, the right tooling that fits your process, that fits your team culture, and you need to work with that. But not only in your CI pipeline or at the end. You need to make sure that it works in your whole development pipeline. For instance, let's start, as we call, as much left as possible. That is your local machine. Why not have tools in place that can help you while coding? That can scan your NPM or your package.json or your NPM or your Maven file or your Gradle file while you importing new stuff. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, if I do that, I know there is, if I use a vulnerable package and I put it into my repo, I know already at the end people will say no. So I can prevent that. And it's easy to do so. Just choose the right tooling. For instance, if I have I've got Eclipse IDE here. Nobody uses Eclipse, but for instance, I have something like, okay, here is a package, here's a problem, and we can just upgrade by, well, instead of using 2.3.20, use 2.3.24.3. Hey, that is actionable advice for me, and just upgrade that and done. And I can do that on my local machine. But that's just one point. Because from that point, and you can do that with all sorts of tools. Of course, I use my own tooling now to show you. But the point is that you need to be aware of this, right? So going back to this one, let's do the next step. Why not scan your repository? Connect your repository to a scanning tool. Not only for your dependencies, but also for your own code, that little bit of code that you already reviewed or did programming on. But also the dependency thing. Why not scan your repository? Why not automatically scan every pull request that comes in for not getting worse? Because getting better is already hard, but new stuff's getting in and getting worse is even worse. So I can do that by just connecting my repo to an online scanner, for instance. And I've got a package over here, and it says for like, oh, wow, you're using a package here, and maybe you should upgrade to 2.3.37 instead of whatever. And I can even connect it to fix this vulnerability, and it connects to my GitHub repo. Again, this is all for free, and this is my stuff, but you can use anybody's stuff to do so. I'm just making an example over here. Then, you still need that stuff in your CI pipeline. I hope you all use an automatic CI pipeline. Who doesn't? I build for my local machine. Yes, I do sometimes. But in your CI pipeline, you still need to have that gatekeeper automatically. But if it goes automated and it breaks your build, you do not have to take care of it unless it screams, right? Just like a baby. Leave it there till it screams. You need to fix it. Feed it or clean its diaper. Just as that. But at that point, you're not done. I mean, okay, you're going to production. At that point, you're clean. No vulnerabilities, no problems in your dependencies, and we drop it. And then we do not touch it for 2.5 years. Why not take a snapshot and scan that on a daily basis and get pinged if there's some new vulnerability on it? And even get pinged if there's a new vulnerability on it, and maybe connect it again back to your repository that it creates a pull request for a new version. If we automate as much as possible, and sure, you need to look at it manually as well if it doesn't break builds, or it doesn't break API. But with the right tooling, and this is only dependency stuff, but also code analysis, your own code analysis, you need stuff for that in place as well. By picking the right tooling and incorporate that in the processes you have, you're already halfway. And that's why we say we need to shift security left as possible. Because if you start with it from the beginning, the end result will be much more satisfactory. You will not get back to that because if it breaks here, it may took 3 weeks of work. You need to implement another package that breaks API. You need to do all the work over again. That's devastating. So start with it from the beginning. And in every single piece of your development pipeline, until it's in production, and after that, you need to keep these tools going to help you out. If you want to know more about that small little dot was purple, your code, you can look into our Java cheat sheet or our NPM cheat sheet. Just for an example, we have a few of these things up and running to help you get security minded on your own code. So we can help you with that as well. And that's actually what I wanted to say. I'm Brian. I work for a company called Snyk. If you want to know more about AppSec, go and join the free online community Secure Developer, where we can get all sort of experts in that talk about how to incorporate security during your development pipeline, during your development cycle, if it's on your local machine or cloud or whatever. I want to thank you for attending. I think my time is up. And if you have any questions, please come over here or ping me on Twitter. Thank you for attending.